Imagine spending nearly 20 years in school. Then you finally land a stable job. You work hard every single day, stay late whenever your boss asks, and never give anyone a reason to complain. You did everything society told you to do. Then one morning, your company announces layoffs. Not because you're lazy, not because the business is failing, but because one person who knows how to use AI can now do the work of three. Sounds brutal, right? What's even scarier is, this isn't science fiction anymore. I'm Ty, and this is Ty Explain. This video is based on publicly available research and reports, so if you have a different perspective or something interesting to add, leave it in the comments. There's one piece of advice almost all of us grew up hearing: study hard, work hard, everything else will eventually fall into place. And to be fair, that advice wasn't a lie. For our parents' generation, it actually worked. A stable job was often enough to buy a house, raise a family, and build a decent life. They weren't guaranteed to become rich, but they knew that if they kept showing up and doing the work, life would slowly move forward. Back then, the rules were simple. Graduate, get hired, stay loyal, and chances are you'd spend your entire career at the same company. Believe it or not, changing jobs too often used to make you look unreliable. Today, if you've stayed at the same company for 10 years, LinkedIn is probably wondering if you forgot your password. The problem isn't that we learned the wrong lesson. The problem is that while we were busy working harder, the world quietly changed the rules of the game. The truth is, AI wasn't the first thing that changed the way we work. It just happened to be the loudest. The world had already been changing for years. The internet connected everyone. Companies started hiring talent from anywhere. Remote work became normal. Automation quietly took over repetitive tasks. None of it happened overnight, so most of us barely noticed. But when you zoom out, the rules are completely different now. Imagine opening a coffee shop on a street with only a few other cafes. As long as your coffee is good, you'll probably do just fine. Now imagine that same street turns into a giant shopping district with hundreds of cafes. Suddenly, good coffee isn't enough anymore. You have to be faster, smarter, and somehow stand out from everyone else. That's exactly what's happening in today's job market. Years ago, your competition was the people living in your city. Today, it could be a programmer in India, a designer in Poland, or an editor in Vietnam. They're all just one laptop and a decent internet connection away from the same job you're applying for. Congratulations, you just got promoted to the global league without even signing up. And once the game becomes global, working harder stops being your biggest advantage. Because if everyone is willing to work hard, the person who creates more value will always win. And that's exactly where AI enters the story. At this point, you might be thinking, so AI is the bad guy, right? Not exactly. What actually changed is the gap between people who adapt and people who don't. Think about two designers working 8 hours a day. One does everything the old way. The other uses AI to brainstorm ideas, remove backgrounds, generate mock-ups, and speed up the boring parts of the process. They both work just as hard. But by the end of the day, one designer finishes 3 projects while the other finishes 1. Now, put yourself in the client's shoes. Who would you hire? The same thing is happening everywhere. Programmers use AI to write boilerplate code. Marketers use it to create campaigns faster. Editors cut hours off their workflow. Even lawyers and accountants are finding ways to automate repetitive tasks. AI isn't replacing every job, it's replacing parts of jobs. And once those repetitive tasks disappear, companies don't need as many people to produce the same results. That's why there's a saying that's becoming more and more true. AI probably won't replace you, but someone who knows how to use AI just might. It sounds harsh, but we've seen this story before. Computers replaced typewriters, the internet replaced phone books, digital cameras replaced film. The people who survived weren't always the smartest. They were the ones who adapted first. And if you think this is just another trend the internet is exaggerating, take a look at what the biggest companies in the world have been doing. If you think this is still just a theory, it isn't. Over the past few years, some of the biggest tech companies in the world have cut thousands of jobs. Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, Intel. Many of these companies were still making billions of dollars. They weren't laying people off because they were going broke. They were restructuring, investing in AI, automating workflows, finding ways to get more done with fewer people. And honestly, if you were running a company, you'd probably do the same. If 10 employees can now produce what 15 used to, why would you keep paying for 15? It sounds cold, But businesses have never been built on emotions. They've always been built on efficiency. That's why so many people feel anxious today. It's not because they've already lost their jobs. It's because nobody knows how long their current skills will stay valuable. And to me, that's the scariest part. Not AI, not layoffs, but waking up one day and realizing the world has moved on while you've been standing still. Which brings us to an uncomfortable question. What if the biggest problem isn't AI? What if it's the way we've been preparing people for the future? Here's the ironic part. We spend almost 20 years in school, yet almost nobody teaches us how to learn something completely new. School teaches us how to memorize, how to pass exams, how to earn a degree. But the real world keeps asking a very different question. Can you adapt? A few decades ago, learning one skill could carry you through an entire career. Today, some skills become outdated in just a few years, sometimes even faster. You finally master a new software. Great. There's already an update waiting for you next Monday. That's when I realized something. Companies aren't just looking for the smartest people anymore. They're looking for the fastest learners, the people who are willing to question their own habits, to throw away old workflows, to become beginners again. Over and over. If you pay attention, the people growing the fastest aren't always the most talented. They're usually the ones who aren't afraid to look stupid for a while, because every time the world changes, they change with it. And maybe that's actually good news, because if the rules have changed for everyone, then everyone has to learn again, not just you. So, does working hard still matter? Absolutely, it always will. But working hard is no longer the finish line. It's just the starting point. The people who succeed tomorrow won't necessarily be the ones who work the longest hours. They'll be the ones who learn the fastest, who adapt the quickest, and who aren't afraid to let go of yesterday's playbook. Maybe AI will become even more powerful. Maybe another technology will replace it one day. Nobody knows. But one thing is almost certain. The world isn't going to slow down and wait for us to catch up. So maybe the question isn't, how can I work harder? Maybe the better question is, how can I become harder to replace? Because in the end, hard work didn't stop being valuable. The world just stopped rewarding it the same way. I'm Ty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video or it gave you a new perspective, let me know in the comments. And if you want to better understand the world that's changing around us, consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.